welcome to the Counterattack Playthrough Series. We are playing No Retreat, the North African Front by GMT Games. Designer Carl Paradis? Paradise? I'm going with Paradis. Let's check it out. Here we see the first scenario setup. It also happens to be the campaign setup. I'm going to try the campaign. If I get burnt out on it, maybe I'll cut out early, but I'm going to give it a go. This game's interesting. So it's the North African theater, World War II. Mostly British and Allies fighting Germans and Allies, Italians. It's a little different in that you play it on many maps. So there's a couple other maps here. They're double-sided. And the idea is we're going to the forces will try to fight each other for this map. And if they succeed in pushing the other force off the map, then you move to another map. So this is map 4. Map 3 is that way, map 5 is that way, and there's a little schematic over here of the overall North African coast. So here's map 4. So both forces are going to be on map 4, so it's contested. There's two markers indicating who's there. So the Germans have these 3 maps to the left, British right, and the designer notes indicate basically traditional North African games have a really long map with areas that are empty, areas that you don't care about, also a lot of lulls in the fighting. And so what he did was to keep the space low, avoid lulls, avoid areas that fighting doesn't really take place, is to chop up North Africa in a bunch of spots. Some places have actually been cropped out, so like these don't actually line up on a real world map. There's some pieces missing in between some of them. But anyway, that's how it's going to roll. So let me describe a few more things and then we'll get started. So the campaign is up to 18 turns long. It might end earlier. Here's turns 1 through 9. There's a bunch of reinforcements and things coming in. Then turns 10 through 18. 1 through 9 are the first half of the campaign. This German cross symbol indicates that the Germans have the strategic advantage for this whole row of turns. Okay, that'll have some effect on the gameplay. Then on turn 10, the British rondel comes out. So that means then the British sees the strategic advantage. So we'll keep that in mind. Also, the British have the initiative. That basically means on a turn, both players basically take a turn, and the person with the initiative goes first. It'll be the British and then the Axis. And so whoever has initiative, this marker will indicate who has initiative. So on this scenario, campaign, British start with the initiative. So this scenario starts with the Italians already deployed. But I need to deploy the British. So both sides actually have a force pool. So here's the British force pool, ready to go. Plus they have 8 supplies. The Axis forces, 4 supplies, no other forces in their force pool. There's actually a stockpile. There's the stock, I should say. That's the things that potentially are available to the Axis powers. Here's the things potentially available to the Allies, and those stocks will increase and will over the turns of the campaign, and these force pools will slowly have more options for them. But to set this up, I need to set up all the British units within 4 hexes of Matru. I'm thinking the names here are Arabic, maybe, so sorry if I mispronounce them too poorly. Okay, so I need to set the British up. I'll do this off camera and then talk about it. I also need to get some cards out. So this is not a card driven game, it's card assisted. So each side is going to get some cards. The Axis first, they're going to draw 5 cards. Each card has an allied section that's only used by the Allies, Axis section only used by the Axis. They have different capabilities, but I'm supposed to draw 5 cards for the Axis that don't say play immediately. So I'll discard the ones that say play immediately. Then I'll get those 5 cards, shuffle all the discarded cards back into the deck, take 7, discard play immediately, give those to the ally, and shuffle it all back up. So I'm going to do that off camera real quick. Okay, set things up here. So how the game plays is that we're going to kick off an offensive. So it'll be the British, and it'll kick off an offensive. Then both sides battle it out. Might take multiple turns to battle out that offensive. And when the offensive ends, then there's sort of like a regrouping planning for the next offensive, and then it continues. The goal of trying to control this map is basically you have to eliminate all these square units of the enemy by pushing them off the map, having them retreat off the map, or just killing them. Alternately, if you capture all towns, so the British have 2 towns. I put some rondels on them, and then a cross on the one town the Germans have. Maybe I'll go over these things real quick, just a little bit. So the terrain is fairly straightforward, clear and rough, costs 1 movement point. Movement is the right number on all these units. Red just means you're mechanized, so you get a little mechanized bonus when you're fighting. Hills cost 2 movement points. Let's see, did I get that right? Oh, rough also costs 2 movement points. Towns cost 1 movement point. And then ridges, when you cross a ridge in either direction, you add a movement point. You cannot cross an escarpment. Roads allow you to ignore the terrain. And do tracks do that as well? So let's see. Yeah, so it costs 1 movement point on a track and half a movement point on a road. Okay, so in terms of combat, these are the combat strengths, the left-hand number of everybody. So there's no defensive strength and attack strength, it's just combat strength. The dots on these Italians, and there's also a dot on this British unit. That means those units are irreplaceable. If they're destroyed, they're out of the game. So you want to try to hold on to them so that you can use them for most of the game. So that's why I stacked this British guy with this 2-step tank unit, so that if they take a step loss, I can prevent him from taking a loss. This is a half-strength British unit. It's on its half-strength side. Indian infantry, 2 steps. Single step, heavy tanks. So this must be Matildas or something. Has a reddish oval around it, indicating that they're heavy tanks. The star means I think you can get it, if it's destroyed, you can get it for free at the next in the next offensive, I guess. O'Connor's a general. So different colored units cannot stack together. So for example, I can't stack these brown mechanized units with this tan infantry unit, but there are hybrid units that are allowed to stack, so you can see that. Combat of different colored units, they cannot coordinate, at least the British can't, unless there's a general on the board. So there's a general, so they can do that. What else? These things are called boxes. The Italians have quite a few. They have 1 strength point. White color means they cannot attack. Parentheses means they don't have a zone of control. All these units have a zone of control. It's the area that they influence around them. Moving into a zone of control costs 1 extra movement point. You cannot move from a zone of control to another zone of control unless you're mechanized. Okay, and then this is a minefield. We can't really use them until turn 6, I think, but the very beginning of the game starts with one here at Sidi Barani. It has a combat factor, so with a white outline, similar to this, which is white. White means cannot attack, but it does have a zone of control. And let's see, and the 6 there means you normally can't have them until turn 6. I think that's about it that I want to talk about. Yeah, so this scenario starts, this campaign starts on the strategic phase of the game. So it's not the very first phase of the game. I'll show you what the phases look like. Here's a sequence of play. So on a new turn, you're going to do a bunch of housekeeping. Well, we're not doing that. Here's the strategic phase, which is in the operational preparation segment, I guess. So we're going to alternate playing of 1 card for the strategy phase event. So we're going to look at our cards, and if we have any strategy phase cards to play, we can play them. Then it says ignore, this is the scenario instructions, ignore the organization phase. We'll do that next turn. Then we're going to declare offensives, and probably not do the deployment phase unless some card play up here gives us something to deploy, because everyone's already deployed. Then we're going to start the player turns. So the first player with initiative, that's the British, is going to do supply, movement, combat. Then the other player will do supply, movement, combat. And then both players can decide if they want to continue the offensive. You have to pay 1 supply point to continue it. And then there's an end of turn housekeeping. Okay, so we're going to start with the strategic phase. So we're going to look through the 7 cards the British have. For some cards that might be applicable, we're only looking at the gray area. So remember I said there was a strategic advantage, and it's in the Germans, symbolized by the, I guess, Iron Cross style. So there's one right there. So that means this event can only be played during the Germans' strategic advantage portion of the campaign. So this is good. And it also says play during the strategic phase. So we'll set that off aside for a second. Here's another one, but it's not strategic, so I'll just hold off on that until later. British Rondel. That means it has to be only playable. It's only playable during the British strategic advantage segment or portion of the campaign. So I'll set that off to the side. Play at any time. Okay, that's potential. Not. Not. Also, this is a Malta symbol. Malta events, related events, are not applicable until Malta is part of the game, and it's not right now. Nope. Okay, so take a look at these 2 cards. Okay, so long-range desert group. Played any time, the Axis player must choose to either discard 1 random card or lose 1 blitz marker. Those are special markers you use when you're attacking. They don't have one. Or lose 2 supply points. Okay, that's good. Hurts the Germans. Here's another one. Aschenlech requests reinforcements. Play during the strategic phase to receive a reinforcement unit now that is scheduled to arrive next turn. Cool. Or gain a shock marker, or gain 2 extra supply points. I think I'm going to play this. I want that reinforcement from next turn. So I'm going to play this, keep the other one off to the side, discard this, come over to the turn track, and turn 2 has a reinforcement. It's the only British reinforcement. It's the Australians, actually. The 6th Australian Division. So we'll go ahead and put that into our force pool. So that means we will do the deployment phase since there's something to deploy. Okay, now the Germans take their turn in playing strategic phase cards. Okay, I should say Axis, of course, because it's the Italians on the map. Okay, so this is British Rondel battle card. These target symbols indicate it's during a battle. Battle. Let's see, sometimes there's other things here. Yep. Battle. Malta. Okay, so they don't have anything they can play, so they will pass. Now it's the British turn during the strategic phase. I think they're going to play this. So they know the Germans don't have any blitz markers. So they're going to either have to discard a card or lose 2 supply points. So they'll play long-range desert group because it's going behind the scenes to cause disruption. Okay, so what are the Axis going to do? I think they're going to discard a random card. They only have 4 supply. Okay, so here's their cards. Hopefully it's one that they can't use. Here we go. Okay, so it's one they can't use, that Malta card, so that's discarded. Okay, Axis pass. British are out of cards. They pass. End of strategic phase. Now for the declare offensive phase. The player with initiative gets to go first, and they can spend 1 supply point. The British are going to do that to declare an offensive. If they didn't declare an offensive, then the second player could try to declare an offensive by spending a supply point, and they would seize the initiative. But British are declaring an offensive. When you do that, you get 2 free target markers. The British have a total of 4 available to them, so they get 2 free target markers. This is what represents the battles they have been able to plan ahead for. Okay. Also, I probably should have set this up already, but the British start off with 2 shock markers. These are just bonuses to battles. And I know they get that because on turn 1, it has 2 shock marker symbols on the right-hand side. Also, there's an event in there, surprise attack. So surprise attack in the rulebook says the British attack using the German combat results table. So if we look over here, there are 3 combat results tables, a British, a German, and a Italian. So I suspect this is the most aggressive, medium, and least aggressive. Just, I haven't even looked at them. I'm just guessing. So surprise attack, the British are going to be attacking on using this table. Okay. Okay, so we got some little assets here. So declare offensive phase over. Now to deploy the deployment phase, we're going to deploy the Australians. They have to go on or adjacent to a road or track leading to a friendly supplied town or city, or within 3 hexes of the friendly colored map edge, and within the regular per hex stacking limits, which is 2. and they can't, basically deploy right next to an enemy and take an enemy town. So they can go anywhere like along these tracks since they connect to a friendly town. I think, let's see, they only have a movement of 3. I think we'll throw them here. Oh, they can't go there because they can't stack with mechanize. Okay, I think we'll do that. I could have also put them in the strategic reserve. You can have up to 3 units at the beginning of a scenario in the strategic reserve. And here it says cost 1 countable marker to place a unit on the map. So you can pull things off out of here and put them on the map by spending these things called countable markers, which we don't know about right now. But yeah, I just wanted them on the map. Try to have enough guys to destroy the Italians before they can escape. And that's what they're going to try to do once this starts. Read a little online, like it's a good strategy to try to just get these Italians off the map as fast as possible, because otherwise they'll be destroyed. You want them to get to a spot where they can start stacking with other units to protect them, because they cannot be rebuilt, where these other guys, most of them can be rebuilt, except this comb mechanized unit. Now for the supply phase, we're starting the player turns. So it's the first player turn, the player with initiative, doing supply, movement, then combat. Okay, so supply. We look at all the units and make sure they can trace to a supply source. It has to be at no more than 3 hexes to a supply source. Supply source counts as the colored border of your faction, which is brown in our case. So they're all more than 3 hexes away. Or 3 hexes to a road or track that can trace all the way back to a colored border without going through enemy, zone of control, and enemies. So they're all good. Likewise, these guys are all good. Their color's gray. Additionally, the current player, which is the British, can pay a supply point to buy 2 more of these markers to use in attacks. And that's the most they can buy, because their stocks only have 2 more, and they currently have 2. But I don't think I'm going to do that right now. I think I'm only going to be able to do 2 attacks right now anyway. So that ends the supply phase. Now the next phase is the movement phase, but before I get into that, let me go over the cards a little bit more. So here's the British hand of cards. They can actually play these potentially at any time. Basically, you look at the event text in the British section and see if it's applicable. So like this one says, play during the battle sequence. So we're not doing that. So we can't play it right now during the start of the movement phase. It's also not the British strategic advantage in the campaign yet, so they couldn't play it anyway, because it has that roundel there. But this symbol over here, there's a bunch of little symbols on the left of the cards. You can play those regardless of what the event says or what the strategic advantage situation is at any time. You basically have to look up on a chart what they mean, and that chart's right here. I won't go through them all yet, but a lot of them are play at the start of the organization phase, play at the end of the opponent's movement phase, and so on. So we'll probably play some of those. And like I said, there's other, let's see, so these 3 for the British can't be played right now, other than for these little bonus things. But this is, play at the start of your movement phase, so that would be applicable. But it says remove a stack of allied units from the map and place them in the shattered units box. Well, that would take them out of the battle. So I'm going to do that. Not going to do that. That's in the axis phase. So let's take a look at the axis ones. Again, that'd be the gray area up top. So battle sequence. So the black crosshairs there indicates battle sequence. That's battle sequence, but it can't play battle sequence and battle sequence. Yeah. So, but they do, again, have these little bonus things. Okay, so anyway, back to the Allied movement phase. Well, basically, I want to move up so that I can attack these guys. So, how about we'll start with these guys here. Move them as a stack. So he can go 4, he can go 3. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. So it costs 1 to go into clear, another to go into clear, 1 more to go into the zone of control exerted by the Maletti division. Okay. Then let's see, how about this guy here? He can go 6. So can this guy? You're gonna go 1, 2-3 because they entered the zone of control. And since they're mechanized, they can push on through that zone of control. Through infiltration is what the rules call it. 5, 6. Wait, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Then maybe 7th armored. No, Australians will help out there. So 1, 2, 3. And then 7th armored. 1, 2 to cross the ridge. 3, 4, 5. Okay. That's the movement phase. So let's see. Do the Germans want to trade in this green arrow to do something here? So green arrow says play at the end of the opponent's movement phase to move any units in one stack not in an enemy zone of control up to 2 movement points. They must move to the same hex. And I think I might want to do that. You know, might as well use these cards anyway. Oh, you know what? That was a British section here. I don't have one of those green guys in the German sections, and never mind. Okay. That's the movement phase. Okay, now it's the combat phase. In the combat phase, we first mark what we're going to voluntarily attack with these attack markers. So we got these when we bought the offensive. So you know, there's not many choices here for us. We're just going to mark these 2 hexes. So those are our attacks. Now the enemy, if they had purchased those same markers, so let's just say they had purchased a gray one, they could spend them as counterblow markers. So they would flip it over, and this is the counterblow symbol, and they can place that. So let's just say there's an enemy unit here. There's not, but let's just say there was. They could place a counterblow marker there on their unit. What that means is it's as if an additional attack had been planned. It's like these guys that are in here are making a light counter attack here. So these guys would be required to deal with it, and they'd be required to attack. You give up your defensive terrain when you do that, but the benefit is you're soaking off someone from this attack to have to go over here, but they don't have any. So there's a few other things we do, but they don't appear applicable right now. So now we're going to do combat. Okay, now we are starting the battle sequence for one of these battles. I'm the attacker. I'm going to pick which battle to do. We'll go ahead and do this one. So we're going to do this battle. Okay, and we do, it goes through a number of steps. So there's a strength step where we total our combat strengths. So that's 5 plus 4 is 9. Now normally these 2 different colored backgrounds would not be able to attack together, but we have a general on the battlefield, so that allows them to attack together. So 9 to 2. So that's going to be a ratio of 4 to 1. So I'm marking over here on the combat results table, just with this die, pointing at 4 to 1 column. We're using the German combat results table because, if you recall, this is turn 1, which is a surprise attack. Okay. Then we do the commitment step of the battle sequence. And so first, the attacker can commit shock markers if they want. You can do 1 per attack. So we'll throw a shock marker in there. We have a total of 2 that were allocated by the turn. That's going to be a right shift on the column. So I'll go ahead and right shift it. I'm just doing this one attack slowly, and then other ones will expedite. Okay, and then the defender has the option. They don't have any shock markers or blitz markers as the Germans have. Then the attacker can play a card, a battle card. They don't really have any that apply, so they'll decline. Now the Germans have this one. I'm not sure if they want to play them though. Play during the battle sequence of an allied combat phase before a roll. The combat result is defender retreat. Or I could have got 2 free counter markers when a battle was declared. I don't need that. So anyway, I think we're gonna hold off on that though for now. Rather use it for this guy, I think. Okay, so that's it. So we're at 5 to 1 odds. Now there's some other odd shift. Mechanized units attacking get a 6 to 1 odds. Now I do have to look at the terrain to make sure mechanized units are allowed to fight in that terrain. It's clear terrain with a box. So that is allowed, so we'll slide this to 6-1, but then a box shifts it back to 5-1. And the terrain thing I was talking about, I don't know if you can see this, but let's see. So box gets a defensive shift left 1. Mechanized in clear, you get shifts for mechanized units, that's what that says. In open, yes. And in box terrain, yes. So anyway, we are rolling on the 5-1 column, rolling 1 die. Ooh, rolled a 6. 6 is DD. DD is a bunch of these little things here. Defender retreats his units 3 hexes, and each defending unit loses 1 step. Attacking units may advance if the defending unit's retreated. So they have to retreat 3 hexes. And one thing though is if you retreat through a zone of control, that's bad. But you can ignore that rule if you're going through friendly forces. So fortunately this box is here. I assume that was put there for a reason. So this guy has to retreat 3 hexes. 1, 2, I think he'll go 3 back to here. Okay, and then he has to take a step loss. Well, unfortunately, boom, he's destroyed. Now, I'm curious if this box could take the step loss. Let me check that out. Well, I'm not going to look that up actually because it says each defending unit takes a step loss. So he was destroyed. So that was, DD stands for defender destroyed, so that makes sense. Okay, so they're destroyed. It's a dotted, has a dot on there. That means permanently removed from the game. That's too bad. Now advance. Now, even if this guy wasn't destroyed, once it's cleared and someone wants to advance after combat, which the allies do, they can eliminate it and advance right in. So this goes back to the stock, and they can advance. So all of them could advance if they wanted. I think they will. So when you advance, you can go up to 2 hexes, and then if you're mechanized, you can even go 3. Certain terrain stops advances though. We don't have any nearby, so we'll just do these guys first. So they're going to go 1, and you ignore terrain costs when you're advancing. Same for retreats. 1, and then they'll just turn back around. And, oh, actually, they'll go 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I guess I'll just turn back around and go that way. Actually better. I was thinking the zone of control from this guy would stop them, but advances are not stopped by zone of control. So they go 1, 2, 3. Now the reason I did that is I'm trying to get my zone of control back here so that if these guys retreat, they're going to be in trouble. And yeah, they will be in trouble now. This guy will just go 1, 2. Okay, so this is spent. Goes back to the stock. This shock marker, if I rolled an even number, I get to keep it. If I rolled an odd number, it goes back to the stock. By keeping it, the rules just say throw it in the ocean, and then if this campaign or this offensive continues, we'll get it back. Okay, that was the first attack. Next attack right here. Let's total the combat strengths. So we got 7. Oh, these guys already participated in a battle. 8, 9, 10. 10 to 2. I forgot the box in this battle up here, so I'll recompute that in a second. 10 to 2 plus 1 for the box is 3. 10 to 3, that's 3 to 1. So I'm using the 3 to 1 odds. Mechanized, that goes to 4 to 1. Box back to 3 to 1. Kind of doing things a little bit out of order. I'm going to apply some shock. Goes to 4 to 1. This red oval around that tank means heavy armor. So I could, if I choose to take that benefit, I can go to 5 to 1. You get an extra shift for tanks if you're using heavy armor. And I think I will, because this asterisk basically means it's free to rebuild. So, and the reason I'm saying that is he has to take the first loss if the allies take a loss when you're using your heavy armor. So we're now at 5 to 1. These guys are mechanized, so they get a bonus as well, so it goes back to 4-1. Okay, and then, you know, I should have said now, okay, we're going to do our shock. Axis, they don't have any shock. Allies, they're going to play a card. No. Axis, they're going to play a card. I think they are. Let's see. Play before the roll. Okay, we're about to roll. It's automatically a DR, Defender Retreat. That would mean they'd retreat through an enemy zone of control and be destroyed, I think. Let's see if this is a 2-step unit. Yes, they'd be destroyed. So maybe I don't want to play that. Maybe I'll hope for something different. Okay, let's roll a die. Rolled a 5. 5 is DS. DS is Defender Shattered. Defender retreats his units 3 hexes, and if not destroyed, places them in the Shattered Units box, which allows them to not come back later. Or not retreat, and each defending unit takes 1 step loss instead. Well, that would kill everyone. But then Defender retreat through an enemy zone of control. I think he's going to be dead. Yeah, he's dead. He's going to retreat into an enemy zone of control, which is illegal. Destroyed. I was hoping to save him, so he's removed from the game. Okay, so this goes to the stock. This, I rolled an odd number, so it goes back to the stock as well. Advance after combat. Well, let's see. These guys can go 1, 2, 3. Again, ignoring zone of control. That goes to the stock. 1, 2, 3. And then these are infantry. 1, 2. Okay, so we're destroyed 2 units. That's good. So that way they can't fight back at us in the future. That's the end of the combat phase. Okay, now it's the German player turn, or the Axis player turn. It's really the Italians here. We start with the supply phase, just like we did with the Allies. So we check the active player supplies first. Well, this guy is still in the same position, so he's in supply. He traces along this road off the edge. The Allies, they have to trace up to 3 hexes to a supply source. A supply source for these guys will be a road, one of these roads that traces back to a town. And it can't go through zones of control, but these guys don't exert zones of control, so they can all use these roads and tracks to be supplied, so they're good. Now the movement phase for the Italians. Well, this guy, he's going to go 1, 2 off the map. So he goes to the Shattered Units box, and yeah, that's it. Combat phase, no combat. Allies don't want to do anything either. You know, they could be placing counterblow markers and things, but you know, we've driven all the square Italian units off the map, so the Allies have conquered the map, and so that go ahead and that ends the offensive. If it hadn't ended the offensive, then both sides would decide whether they want to continue the offensive by paying a supply point. First the Allies get the option, and then the Axis, but that's not going on. Okay, now we do the end of turn housekeeping. So these things. So we'll skip the continuation because it basically no one wanted to continue. End of turn housekeeping. Determine map control. Okay, well, we control the map because there are no more square units of the enemy. So we come over here and we remove the German marker from map 4. So now the British own 2 of the 5 maps. Then we process the initiative check segment. We're trying to see who has initiative for the next offensive. Basically, if you got knocked off the map, initiative would swing to the other guy. Also, if you did not get knocked off the map, but you're the guy with the initiative and you failed to capture 2 towns or cities, you lose the initiative, but we are keeping the initiative. Next is the removal segment. So for the loser, all their boxes and minefields are thrown back into the stock. And we don't need these markers anymore. For the winner, all their boxes go back to their force pool, so potentially to be used later. Also, all forces currently on the map, well, it's only the survivors, these guys all go back to the force pool. So the allies have this nice large force pool here. The Axis just have some supplies. But they do have a unit in the Shattered Units box, so we'll probably see that next turn. And shock markers, blitz markers, leftover attack markers, they all are lost, so they go back to the stock. Okay, and that, I believe, ends the turn. And next turn, we'll go ahead and start with the new turn housekeeping. But that'll be next video, so I'll catch you later.